and the circuit dries out a little bit. Somebody else is off at Copse Corner, and it's the Elk Motorsport car, which must be Tav Kirk, number 379. He's got himself into the gravel on the entrance to, not quite the entrance, kind of midway through Copse Corner really. So that car again stuck in the gravel, facing the track, so if he could get the car moving forwards, then he would be able to get back out onto the circuit, but at the moment the car seems to have bogged down. There's Marshall, he's got two wheels on the circuit, so he may be able to get going. It's getting a little bit of push power from Marshall's, but I think the rescue unit's going to be a little bit quicker, so the rescue unit comes to his aid, and who's in that 379 car at the moment is Fraser Fennick at the wheel of car number 379. I think Fraser's having his second go behind the wheel of that car already this evening. He's had one turn at the wheel already, but having his second stint and losing time now, stuck in the gravel at Copse Corner. Fraser currently 28th overall, and that makes me think it's not actually Fraser Fennick at the moment, it's Tav Kirk. So the 5 IDs that come up on one of my screens are not as reliable as one on the other, so we'll stick with the reliable one. So it's Tav Kirk at the wheel of the 379 car, stuck in the gravel at Copse Corner, and the rescue unit has pulled the car. Where's he taking him? I thought he was just going to pull him forward and allow him to go back onto the track at Copse, but they may be pulling him back onto the service road, not the public service road, but there's a kind of a service road between the gravel bed and the barrier that is often left for precisely that purpose, to enable cars to resume racing without getting in anybody's way, but without having to go through the gravel bed either. So this is all happening at Copse once again. The first corner after the start-finish line, barely a lift, but as one driver who shouldn't be named said, you'll need to use a lot of the curb in order to get through there, and I think that's kind of what happens, because you're right on the giddy limit, then the slightest mistake or using some curb which turns out to be a bit slipperier than you expected it to be causes disaster. And there's a spinner at Maggots as well, as somebody else just comes out with the yellow flag. There's the yellow flag zone at Copse Corner, obviously, and they come out of that and then get back onto the throttle and giving it a little bit too much throttle. So he is going to be able to resume without hitting anything and without anybody hitting him, but bending back up to speed again. So a car off at Copse, a spinner at Maggots, rain pouring down, track thoroughly drenched, and here we are with still nearly 15 hours of the 24 hours still to go. They call it character building, but just have to listen to anybody out there and says how much they enjoy driving, even driving in the wet. These little Citroen C1s, such fun to drive that even when you don't have very much power, you don't have very much grip in the wet, so it just becomes even more fun. So the car of Tav Kirk still stuck there in the gravel at Copse Corner, and while he sits there, so he drops out of the top 30. He was in 28th place when we started talking about him, but he's now down to 35th. But at the moment still sitting there. He was being given a tow by the rescue unit. The car, I think now, is probably in a place where it could rejoin, but they can't get it to start, would be my guess. So a quick rundown the positions as they stand at 9 hours. Duncan Stone at the wheel for Viking in the lead of the race, as he has been now for the last 21 laps, and 21 laps translates into pretty much an hour's worth of racing. Yeah, so 21 laps has been the time Duncan Stone has been in the lead of the race, and he has completed 147 laps, is lapping a little bit quicker now in the 325s for Duncan, and his lead is just over 2.5 minutes back to the Citroen of Adam Burgess, number 376 in second place. Third place, and Dan Collett is now 45 seconds behind. So Dan, although his lap time on that last lap was quicker than Adam Burgess, Adam has been lapping consistently for the last 40 minutes or so, more quickly of the two of them, and so Dan has dropped back, as I say, to the tune now of 45 seconds in third place. Fourth place, a lap behind, is Callum Hutchings in the Old Hat Motorsport car number 321, but is just 30 seconds behind the car of Dan Collett. Then it's James Kenyon in the Kraken Motorsport car, a further minute and a half behind Callum Hutchings. Scott Jeffs back at the wheel of 390. No, it's not. It's in the pits of 390 is at the moment, and that is Ryan Bensley in the pits for number 390, and that is, yes, a scheduled pit stop after 2.5 hours of driving for Ryan Bensley. So he will be handing the car over to possibly going back to Alex Sedgwick, who was the start driver in that car. Although having said that, I haven't seen either Kieran McDonald or Morgan Jones, so we may get one of those two, Kieran McDonald or Morgan Jones, driving the car now. So that is for number 390, the fourth pit stop. So yes, an opportunity to put the fifth driver in the car. They've got a 6-driver lineup, so 2 hours each. It's going to be a wee while before we get all of them cycling through in that car. So that's 390, and that car, before its pit stop, yes, was in 6th place, still in 6th place at the moment, but we'll lose places while the car is being refueled and driver changed. 6th place. In 7th place is car number 480, Sammy Bowler in the Team Merlin International. She has Simon Harrison about to overtake her. That's going to be a change next time around, I think, because Simon Harrison, number 385, was less than a second behind Sammy Bowler, and was lapping considerably quicker than Sammy. So I think that's a change in prospect for the Circuit Pro team. Currently 8th, but looking at being able to take over 7th place. In 9th place is car number 449, the Orange Motorsport car of Steve Glynn. He is closing in, but slowly, on Simon Harrison, but at the moment that gap is big enough not for Simon Harrison not to have to worry about it. Rob Austin in the Toll Bar Racing car number 333 rounds out the top 10, and Rob's been out there for 23 laps, so a little over an hour, in fact an hour and a half under safety car conditions. So he'll be using this time to increase his pace. Rob Austin lapping in the 3:19s last time around, and that's as quick as anybody is doing, so not quite the fastest car. Actually, you know, he is just the fastest car out there, because the other guy who's going quickly out there at the moment, Gary Preble, in the Silver Lake racing car, number 398, he's there in 16th place. Macatak has made up another change. They've got another car who's had a pit stop reasonably recently, car number 347, the Macatak racing car. Declan McDonnell back at the wheel of the number 347, and that car's up into 19th place, having just overtaken the Akiri Celtic with Clapham North car number 474, which has Stephen James at the wheel at the moment. Trying to check the pit stop there for Ryan Bensley, beginning to lose time in the 390 car, and he's been in the pits now for 4 minutes and 30 seconds, so can't be long before that car should be back out. But at the moment still there getting the fuel, and then we'll be able to tell you when he is back out again who the driver is that's taking over from him. But Ryan Bensley still being shown as the driver, for he was the one who brought the car into the pits at the beginning of this pit stop. Moment at least, still not much improvement in the weather, still rain falling and the track very wet, and quite a bit of spray being kicked up by all the cars as they circulate. Sometimes you can see the spray, sometimes you can't, depending on whether there's a car following close behind. And looking out of the window at cars going, they're getting a little bit more spread out now, so you didn't see the spray necessarily, but when you get two cars following each other, you see just how much spray the car behind is having to deal with as he comes up to try and find a way past the car in front. It's not so bad that you can't see the tail lights or anything of the car in front, but it certainly does mean that you have to pick your line and pick your moment for making overtaking movements. If you're watching it on the Alpha Live stream, then the magic of television pictures makes it a lot less bad looking than it really is. Somehow the camera not picking up quite as much of the spray as I say, when you're actually out there and looking at it, there is in real life. I have to say, this has been a good stint from Adam Burgess. I mean, he's not the only guy out there giving it everything, because there's plenty others who are also doing marvellous things with their respective cars. Rob Austin, for example, climbs up through the field once he gets in the car. In fact, anybody who gets into the 333 toll bar car seems to climb up through the field. He's lapping in the 3:16s. Adam Burgess in the 3:21 on that last lap, as is Simon Harrison. 3:23 from race leader, but Dan Collett on that last lap lost a lot of time. 3:32 from Dan Collett, and that means that he's ever falling back into the clutches of Callum Hutchins. I said, about half an hour or 40 minutes ago that Dan didn't have anything to worry about from Callum Hutchins, but Callum's been plugging away at it and taking great gobs of time out of the third place car, and to the extent where now Callum Hutchins is just 22 seconds behind, but he's closing well on that last lap at a rate of 8 and a bit seconds on the lap. So at that kind of rate of progress, it's not going to take very long, less than a couple of laps, for Callum to be able to make up a place. So he's currently in fourth, Dan Collett's still in third, but the rate they're going, I think Callum Hutchins, before he runs out of fuel, well, Dan Collett is the one who's going to run out of fuel first. Callum Hutchins going great guns in the 321 car, and that could well see the Old Hat Motorsports car making up a place before the end of the stint that we're currently on. And once again, the pendulum, the flow of this race, swings to one team, then swings to another, swings back again to one team again, and makes it thoroughly interesting as the various teams have their, well, I can't quite say moment in the sun, but have their moment when the race just seems to come to them a little bit, as Number 411 now makes its pit stop, the Kraken Motorsport car, and that's another car that is coming in for fuel after not quite such a long stint, 35 laps, but again under the safety car. That's been where the fuel is there to be saved, as it were. And that was James Kenyon who's brought the 411 car into the pits out of 5th place, 1 lap behind the race leader, and we'll see who's going to be taking it over as soon as he comes out of the pit lane. .394 Brian Trott has handed the AB Motorsport car now over to Ollie Allwood. So that's fallen to 12th place as a result of its most recent pit stop. List of penalties being read out there for cars that have recently received assistance. There were 4 or 5 of them on the screen, but got taken off the screen before I had a chance to read through them all. And feeling MST doesn't give race control messages. No, it doesn't. So yes, kind of 450 being given a penalty for receiving outside assistance, and that's 3 laps of penalty. That's the Amigo Motorsport of the Norwegians, Daniel Storkerson, Alexander Sherpen, along with Edward Woldseth. So a 3-lap penalty for car number 450. Just seen Dan Collett go across the line. His lap time that time around 3 minutes 23. Much better lap time that time for him. And I'm not sure that Callum Hutchins is going to be able to match it. No, Callum did a 3 minutes 21 on that lap, so still gets the gap down a little bit from 22 seconds to 19, but not quite as rapid progress as it was on the previous time around. Simon Harrison's just got himself ahead of... no, so Simon Harrison was ahead, stays ahead of Sammy Bowler, but as a result of going past the car in the pits of the 411 car, which is in the pits at the moment, that's the James Kenyon car, James Kenyon losing places now whilst his car is refueled. And back out into the race it goes now with Stuart Lynn behind the wheel. So 411 rejoins with Stuart Lynn driving. And just behind Steve Glynn, so in the orange car. So 449 Steve Glynn ahead of Stuart Lynn in 411. Ian Stinton going great guns in the roll centre car. He's closing in on Ollie Samways in the B Engineering Citroen 309. That's 488 closing on car number 399 at the moment. Sorry, 488 closing on 309 Ollie Samways in the B Engineering car. Those two having gone through separated by less than a second at the completion of that last lap. Dan Collett, I suspect, coming towards the end of his stint. In fact, there's 3 cars in the top 6 who I suspect are all going to be in the pits within the next 2 or 3 laps. Sammy Bowler out of the car number 480. Dan Collett out of 318, Sammy Bowler in 6th place, Dan Collett out of 3rd place in the 318, and our race leader Duncan Stone, all due pit stops fairly soon. Now, that will probably put, won't it, Adam Burgess back into the lead of the race in the Citroen Racing car. 376 was last in the lead of the race. Back on lap 125. Since then, Adam Burgess has held the lead since he's been in the car, or since he was able to take the car over and take advantage of the fact that Adam Burgess's pit stop comes after his. So they have around about 25 minutes between their 2 pit stops, and in that period of 25 minutes Adam Burgess leads, but for the rest of the 2.5 hour stint, or the 2 hour stint, we have the 419 Viking car leading the race. So it alternates between the 2 of them, and into the pits has now come Dan Collett. So Dan Collett coming in first of them. I said it would be the 3 of them. Sammy Bowler also due in, Duncan Stone due in, but first one to blink is Dan Collett. And to be fair, he did lose quite a bit of time, actually in the end, finishing up some 80 seconds behind Adam Burgess, and when Adam Burgess took the car over, the 2 of them were nose to tail. So I don't know if they can make some change to the car, whether Dan Collett found that it was just a bit too tricky to drive. But Dan did lose quite a bit of time during that stint, and the rest of the team will be eager to make that up. I'm sure David Drinkwater has gone off to have a bit of a rest, having done 2 stints at the wheel of the Eastgate Automotive car already, and by all that's fair in the world, it's probably time for Clive Brookson to get into the race, because here we are 9.5 hours very nearly into the race, and Clive Brookson has yet to drive the 318. More penalties being notified about assistance being received in order to get people back on the tracks. 369, 393 and 344 being the three that now come up. And those three, 369 being the Cock Endurance car, which was the car that was leading the race early on, but then ran out of fuel with Conrad Boss at the wheel. That car, though, 369, seemingly now, I think, running okay once again. Adam Cunnington is at the wheel, yes, and having had its assistance, it's dropped 14 laps off the race leader, 81st overall. But Adam Cunnington going strongly, but a 3-lap penalty for him. 393 is the Sussex Road and Race car. That's the Josh Fulbrook, Kevin Fulbrook, Michael O'Brien and Keith Issat driven car. That car is in 76th place overall and is 12 laps down on the race leader. And finally 344 is Hugh Buckley, currently at the wheel of the Rustys Racing car. He's down in 73rd place, 10 laps behind the race leader. So all of them outside the top 60, and with the penalties dropping them even further back, then so it's going to be a long and possibly fruitless old night, but nevertheless still the opportunity to have fun driving these marvellous little Citroens round. And as all of them have said to us, why wouldn't you? So it has indeed been Clive Brookson who has got into the Eastgate Automotive car, number 318, he being the fourth driver of the car, and anyone not yet to drive it. That has elevated up into third place Callum Hutchins in the Old Hat Motorsport car, and means that we have just two cars now left on the lead lap, that being Duncan Stone in the race leading car number 419 and Adam Burgess in second place in number 376, the Citroen Racing car. Those two cars, although it would be fair to say that Adam Burgess has been consistently lapping quicker, 2 minutes 11 seconds separating them. So it's, to be fair, that's about a minute of a difference that Adam Burgess has made. He's opened up the gap between himself and the Eastgate car to the tune of something over a minute and 20 seconds, and he's opened over a minute, or closed over a minute, on the race leading Viking car of Duncan Stone. So it's been a good stint from Adam Burgess. He'll deserve his rest when he comes in, but he's not due to come in just yet. He should be leading the race by the time he comes in, and that will mean that we need to get Duncan Stone in for his pit stop. So we've had the pit stop that we were expecting from the Eastgate car. That's made it stop and has handed over to Clive Brookson. We haven't yet had the pit stop from Sammy Bowler, have we? And nor have we had Simon Harrison into the pits yet. So Sammy Bowler and Simon Harrison now up into 5th and 4th places respectively. Simon Harrison in 4th place. He's got enough fuel actually to get him up into 3rd place possibly before the end of his stint. We'll see how well he goes, but Simon Harrison with more fuel aboard then than Sammy Bowler, so Sammy will be into the pits fairly soon, I think. 318 with Clive Brookson on his out lap at the moment, and these will be see where he finishes up once he's had his pit stop. Rob Austin in 333, the toll bar car, is now up into 6th place, having just gone through and in so doing managed to get himself ahead of the Eastgate car of Clive Brookson. So Duncan Stone in the lead, 154 laps. Second place Adam Burgess in 153 laps. Callum Hutchins also on 153 laps. And then Simon Harrison is on 152 laps. Sammy Bowler also on 152 laps, but Sammy Bowler, the one due into the pits fairly soon. And of course Duncan Stone due into the pits fairly soon. So it'll probably be the next one, either Sammy or Duncan Stone due their pit stops. Rain, dare I say it, not quite as heavy now as it has been. Track though still treacherously wet, and we continue to absorb the fascinating changes and swings of fortune that this race continues to throw at us. .419, Duncan Stone on his way down into Brooklands at the moment, through the left-hander and then turning right through Luffield. Try and pick out whether this is the lap that he's going to come in or whether he's going to stay out for another one. Half expecting Sammy Bowler to be into the pits before. No, it's the Viking car comes in this time, so the purple ID lights on the roof of Duncan Stone's car, and so as on schedule does come the car of the race leader, but he's only going to be the race leader for another minute and a half, because the gap is coming down now. On the same lap is Adam Burgess. Adam Burgess with more fuel aboard. He'll be able to go, by my reckoning, about until 3:30 local time in the morning. That will take us to, what, 14 hours of the race still to go, if you're counting down by the time to go clock. But you can take your choice, but into the pits then, more fuel for the Viking car, new driver for the Viking car, and job well done for Duncan Stone. But not to say that it's all over yet, because he can go off and have a rest, but he'll have to hand the car over. And who will it be next? We've had both of the grind rods at the wheel. Paul Tompkins has driven it, but I don't think Dean Tompkins has. So 4 drivers have driven. We'll now be putting the 5th driver into the car having had 4 pit stops. Change of driver at each of them. Counting down the time to Adam Burgess coming into sight at Luffield. Not yet. So there he goes now. So there goes Adam Burgess across the start finish line. Therefore he now leads the race. So 376 Citroen Racing. Adam Burgess with 25 minutes in the glory to be in the lead of the race. And then he'll be having to come into the pits for his routine stop, and this is why just making that pit stop window last a little bit longer ends up giving you the advantage in the end, because you can wait and wait and wait, and then finally you can either skip a pit stop, or right at the end of the race the pit stop only has to be a shorter one. And the way the regulations work for this race, pit stops basically as quick as you can make them, no minimum pit stop times. The main restriction is how quickly you can get the fuel into the car, and with tough jugs to put the fuel in with, then you really just have to wait for gravity to take its natural course. The next car up is going to be Callum Hutchins in the 321 Old Hat Motorsport car, but I'm feeling that he is too far back. If this is a normal pit stop for Duncan Stone and the Viking team, and they're able to get the next driver out in good order, then they should be able to do that before they lose second place to the Old Hat car, Callum Hutchins. Look last time on the rotation after their pit stop. 419. Yes, was in the lead, fell to second place after the pit stop, and that we'll expect to see the cycle going through once again. 3 cars now though going through onto the lead lap, with the leader still in the pits. Yes, in fact he has just lost that position, so it's going to be Callum Hutchins just going through and taking second place, I reckon, from Dean Tompkins. They're going to be coming out of the pits. Dean Tompkins it is who's taken over the Viking car, number 419. So the Viking car then moving onto Dean Tompkins. So that is, yes, all 5 drivers now having taken their turn at the wheel. And so Dean Tompkins being shown on the screen in the lead of the race, but actually is in 3rd place by my reckoning. The lead having passed on the pit stop cycle to Adam Burgess in the Citroen Racing car number 376. Callum Hutchins having taken over 2nd place in the 321 MSAR Old Hat Motorsport car. And Dean Tompkins in the Viking Citroen is now down in 3rd place. All 3 of those cars on the lead lap, and going through now and echoing what I just said on the screen. Adam Burgess then takes the lead of the race with 9.5 hours just over of the race gone, and around 20 minutes or so of fuel aboard his car that he should be able to use. I don't think he's going to be able to stretch the margin very much, but he'll be able to lap as quickly as he can. Adam Burgess lapping 3:18 on that last lap, which is as quick as anybody bar Rob Austin. Rob that last time 3 minutes 15.839, and we still haven't had Sammy Bowler in for her pit stop, have we? She was the one that I was suggesting would be coming in as well, and Sammy getting very good fuel consumption out of her Citroen C1, and so we'll see whether or not she's going to be able to do another lap. Yes, she is. So Sammy Bowler up in 5th place now. That's probably as high as Team Berlin International car has been. Rob Austin is chasing as hard as he can and has got the gap down to 1 minute and 3 seconds now. Rob Austin continuing to lap faster than anybody else out on the circuit in these conditions, which are still far from ideal, and that's evidenced by the fact that even Rob Austin is 10 seconds off the pace of everybody else, and is 10 seconds off the best laps, and even Rob Austin is 5-6 seconds faster than anybody else out there. So Rob's having a great time there. What we'll do is, as and when Duncan Douglas returns, then we may get him to go and find Rob Austin and ask him how he's enjoying it, because I'm sure he's been enjoying himself mightily as well, just as everybody else who gets in the car in one of these Citroens seems to do. Just need to rearrange some power cables to keep the fires burning. Right, that's safely plugged in. So the three cars have gone through, sharing the lead lap. 156 laps completed for Adam Burgess in the lead of the race now. 2 minutes is the gap between himself and Callum Hutchings in second place, and Dean Tompkins is 30 seconds behind, so not a fast outlap from Dean Tompkins. And I thought he was going to be closer than that to Callum Hutchins at the end of this lap. So those three on the lead lap. Now that puts Dean Tompkins, I would suggest, in danger of being overtaken by Simon Harrison. Not yet, but the gap has come down to a minute. So Simon Harrison a minute behind Dean Tompkins. However, Simon with less fuel aboard in his car, so he's going to have to be on his way to the pits fairly shortly, I would think. Still Sammy Bowler making fuel in her Team Merlin car, out there in 5th place. Rob Austin 6th. In 7th is number 449 Steve Glynn. 8th place is 318 Clive Brookson, not David Drinkwater as that screen is showing me. To change that, now in the hands of Clive Brookson, having previously been driven by Clive Brookson, took it over from Dan Collett. So the driving sequence on the 318 started with David Drinkwater. David Drinkwater handed it over to James Poulsen. James Poulsen handed it back to David Drinkwater, and then from David Drinkwater we went to Dan Collett, and from Dan Collett we then went to the current driver, who is Clive Brookson. That'll work. So just a slick adjustment there, and sure enough that screen now tells me as well that Clive Brookson is at the wheel of the Eastgate Automotive Racing car. That 318 then in 8th place goes much more rapidly, I have to say, that car when David Drinkwater was driving it than when some of the other drivers are behind the wheel. But in any event, they are reasonably comfortable in 8th place. In 9th place is car number 394, the AB Motorsport car, 34 seconds behind Clive Brookson. And then in 10th place, Matthew Dyer with the ITC1 car number 325, who is only 8 seconds behind the AB car, but on that last lap actually lost ground to the AB car. Scuderia Sundial with Andrew Stacey in car number 319 is in 11th place, and in 12th place Ian Stinton with the Roll Centre car number 488. And he's in a bit of a fight as well, because Gary Preble is only 4 seconds behind and is closing in on him. So Ian Stinton will be enjoying himself, but yeah, in a bit of a fight in the roll centre car, trying to keep ahead of Gary Preble in the Silver Lake car at the moment for 12th and 13th places. Good battle going on between those two. Adam Burgess then will be able to stay out there for about another 15 minutes, and then he'll be into the pits. Callum Hutchings will stay out, and that could well enable the old Hat car to lead the race, and the old Hat car has led the race already. It says, just check that to see that is true or not. I'm not quite sure if the old Hat car has been in the lead of the race thus far, actually. So if that does come to pass, and it looks like it might, that Adam Burgess will pit before Callum Hutchings, and because Callum Hutchings is ahead of Dean Tompkins, then Callum Hutchings may well lead this race in about 20, less than that, 15 minutes time, 12 minutes time now, as Adam Burgess comes towards the end of his fuel. So Burgess in the lead at the moment by just over 2 minutes, but with the opportunity for Callum Hutchings to take over in the lead when he pits. Dean Tompkins is still getting up to speed in the Viking car. His out lap, or his first flying lap, was a 3 minutes 29. Just waiting for him to come through now. Is that him in the car with the purple trim going through? No, Dean Tompkins not through yet. Waiting for the Viking car. Was in the lead of the race before Dean took it over. Is it in that little gaggle of cars there? It might have been. Yes, it was. A 3 minutes 31. So a further bit of time lost there by Dean Tompkins, and Simon Harrison reduces the margin by a little bit more. Still waiting for Simon to come through. He's in this little gaggle of cars, I do believe. And 3 minutes 19 from Simon. I think we're still waiting for him to come through. Or is Simon Harrison going to be down for the pits this time? No, he should have the same amount of fuel aboard to take him to the next 10-15 minutes as well. So yes, the gap comes down now to 40 seconds then to Simon Harrison. So that is at least 11 seconds of a gain by Simon Harrison on Dean Tompkins. So there'll be some nervous fingernail biting going on down in the Viking garage at the moment, as Dean Tompkins gets himself settled into the Viking car. But at the moment his lap times are not the best of the top 10 cars, and that will, you can have a few laps to get yourself settled in, but after that you really need to start matching the cars around you, otherwise you'll lose places very rapidly indeed. So 159 laps are in the books for Adam Burgess at the head of the field, and he leads the race by 2 minutes and 15 seconds in reality, but in terms of the strategy of the event, he's got about 10 minutes before he's going to have to be bound for the pits, and that will hand the lead to the man who is 2¼ minutes behind, Callum Hutchings in the MSAR Old Hat Motorsport car, number 321, who's in second place. Then Dean Tompkins, who's just recently taken the number 419 Viking car over from Duncan Stone, it was, the car having been driven already by Paul Tompkins and both of the Grindrogs, and so Dean Tompkins is the 5th driver of the car, but at the moment Dean is losing ground to Simon Harrison, who at the moment is 40 seconds behind. That will take him 12 minutes, and that will take him beyond. So I think Dean Tompkins is safe, because I think Simon Harrison is going to run out of fuel before he's going to catch up with Dean Tompkins. So Simon Harrison will be into the pits after Adam Burgess, but nevertheless I suspect that will be before he is able to catch the 419 Viking car. Sammy Bowler still out there in her Team Merlin car. She's now on her 45th lap, so very long stint indeed for Sammy Bowler. Somebody's on the way into the pits at the moment, but it's not Sammy. It's number 331, I think, who's just come in. No, it's not 323 on that time around coming into the pits, and 323 is the Steady 23 car, not featuring in the top 10, sorry, not featuring in the top 30, 3 is 35th place is the Steady 23 car, and so that car coming in for its routine pit stop. Also into the pits on that lap is car number 325, the ITC1 car, and that's Matthew Dyer bringing that car in for a routine pit stop. And Sammy Bowler still out there. The car of Matt Dyer was in after a stint of 44 laps. Sammy Bowler is on her 46th lap at the moment. Now, bear in mind that a lot of those laps were done under the safety car, but takes a wise head to save fuel when you are under safety car, particularly when it's wet. Quite often when conditions are wet, you end up using more fuel because you're spinning the wheels all the time. So Sammy Bowler showing good fuel consumption. I said that earlier on, and that was about 10 or 15 minutes ago, and she's still making the fuel last. So it's a good drive from her. Might not be at the fastest of pace, but if it's economical, then it might be worth doing. And it's seen the Merlin car up into 5th place. Simon Harrison 4th in the Circuit Pro car ahead of him, and the gap between him and the Viking car has come down by another 5 seconds on that lap, now down to 34.823 seconds. So gap continuing to come down, but as I say, the fuel still being used up by Simon Harrison. He's there going strongly in 4th place. It's a good run from Simon, incidentally, and he'll be handing the car probably over to, I should say, back to Tim Hartland is the name I'm trying to get. So yes, Tim Hartland will be the guy taking over, most likely from Simon Harrison. Just the three of them driving the car, and Andrew Burgess goes through, completes another lap. He's now 161 laps down, and he is still lapping faster than Callum Hutchings behind him, who is also lapping quicker than Dean Tompkins behind him. So the three cars, first, second and third, getting further away from each other. Catching the 3rd place car is still Simon Harrison in 4th. In 5th place, Sammy Bowler is being caught by Rob Austin, just as Simon Harrison is catching Dean Tompkins. illustration of the different standards of drive, apart from anything else. Experience, not just standards, but the amount of racing that they've done in different series and different lengths of time. So Simon Harrison then in the Circuit Pro car in 4th place, closing on Dean Tompkins. Rob Austin in 6th place, closing on Sammy Bowler. But whereas now Sammy Bowler's into the pits, so car number 480 finally coming into the pits after a very long stint indeed, but great performance from Sammy, and as I say, to bring the car in from 5th place, you can be very pleased with a job well done there. To get the opportunity, well, Duncan Douglas got the opportunity to speak with her before she was into the car, and I would be surprised when she got into the car if she knew she was going to be in the car until 3:30 in the morning. She got into the car. When was that? It was practically 3 hours ago, because it was exactly 3:30, and now it was exactly midnight. It's now 27 minutes past 3, so she's been in the car for the best part of 2 hours and 2 hours and 57 minutes. She's been in the car, so practically as long as the regulations will allow her to be behind the wheel. And a great stint from Sammy. So Rob Austin then will be moving up into 5th place as a result of that in the toll bar car number 333 that he's racing. And who will be next in after that? Looking down, it is likely to be Adam Burgess, I suppose, as the race leader. He may well, though, be able to go a little bit longer than I was originally suggesting. I was suggesting 3:30, but just looking at the laps that have been done by others through that safety car period, not probably another 15 minutes, so maybe we'll take it to about 3:40 for Adam Burgess, so slightly longer in the lead than we were perhaps expecting him to go. And Callum Hutchings then in 2nd place. That just completed by Adam Burgess that time, 3 minutes 18.6. What's Callum Hutchings going to be able to do? Well, it'll take you a couple of minutes to find out, because he's not quite a lap behind. We've got 3 cars on the lead lap still. Dean Tompkins is on the lead lap, but he's not that far off being lapped by the race leader, and that will be being lapped on the track, not as a result of the pit stop cycle. So Dean Tompkins currently just on the lead lap, but being approached as the cars go through the Beckett's S's. Dean Tompkins in 4:19. Yes, he's just ahead of race leader 376 Adam Burgess. Could well happen on this lap, actually. See what happens next time around. Whether Adam Burgess is able to get through ahead of the Viking car, and that will be to put a lap on Dean. Fuel still going in to the Team Merlin car. Now that's done, car's on its way again. Good pit stop as well from Team Merlin there. Katie Milner has now taken over the driving of the 480 car, and so she will be out and trying to get up to speed. She will lose how much? Certainly lose 1 place, and probably about 3 or 4 places as a result of that most recent pit stop. Looking for quite when Rob Austin will be in the pits as well. I think Rob Austin will probably be in So he's in 5th place, Rob Austin. Simon Harrison is in 4th, and the two of them will be the next ones in, along with Adam Burgess, the race leader. So that will be the